Okay, we're going to be doing a bit of work on my Sims Watts PA100 amplifier today. This is a nice little piece of kit actually, though I'm not convinced I've got use for it, so I'm thinking I may well just sell it, but there's a few things that I need to sort out on it before it's really in a saleable condition. So a while ago the toggle switch for the standby broke off, and whereas if you can use a screwdriver to switch it, that's not brilliant. So we're going to be swapping out both of these switches, and I'm actually going to use metal switches rather than plastic, so they're a little bit more resilient, will cope with more knocks. And it's a very specific type of switch, and I'm not too sure exactly how these wire, so I've just got like for like in terms of the connectors, so we should just be able to swap them out reasonably easily. So these weren't the cheapest switches in the world, but they're good solid switches that should do a job. We've also had a volume control that's sheared off. The actual shaft on the pot just broke off, so I've been given this one, which really isn't, I don't think it's exactly the right pot. I think these are 250k pots on these. I don't know what this one is, but given that I've been given it, I'm going to give it a go. It just saves a bit of money really. We'll try it, and if it's slightly different, if it produces a different tone, or if there's not so much volume on it, then we'll just swap it back out again. So they're the jobs I need to do to be able to sell it. Obviously I've taken the casing off, so we've just got the amp exposed. I've cleaned up in here where I can. This is kind of rusty really from years of use. I mean, these were made between about 1968 and 1972, so it's great that it still works. You've got the 4 preamp tubes here, which are 12 AX7s, and 4 power amp tubes, and I'm trying to remember which ones those are. It's the usual power amp tubes, and the name of those has escaped me. If I do remember what they are, I'll probably stick a little note or something in this video. But although that looks a little old and past its best, if you actually look underneath, that is really clean and tidy. That's pretty impressive. So this amp has got plenty of life left in it yet. It's a very nice clean PA amp. You can use it as a guitar amp and produces some wonderful clean tones, but it doesn't overdrive. There's no real gain circuitry in it. Now I could sort that. I don't know where I'd start. I'd probably have to look at the schematics and see if we can mod it. And I know some people have modded these particular amps to make them into guitar amps, so it's possible to do. So whether I've got the time or the desire or even the need for an amp of this size. Another job I'd like to do is alter this, because at the moment this is a hardwired in power cable, and I'd like to change that so that it's an AEC, I think it's an AEC socket, so maybe use something like this. Maybe not this particular type, because this is a screw fit one. I'd like to use one that's kind of a friction fit. Let me just cut a hole and then put it in. I've probably got one from an old power supply, so it should be possible to do that. But that's a nice to do job. It's not an essential. Okay, it's saleable with it as it is, but it's just an old fashioned way of doing it. These days you don't hardwire power connectors in really. It makes it easier to transport as well, because at the moment you've got to find some way of coiling up the cable. So that's a project I'm going to be having a look at, and I'm going to be posting a few videos on that, and it shouldn't take too long to do, but we'll see how we get on with it and see if we can get this amp back to a good working state. Okay, just an update on the Sims Watts PA100. We've now got new standby and mains switches installed. Happy with those, even if the wiring isn't, well, you can't really see that anyway, even if the wiring isn't quite as neat as it was, but they work and I'm happy with those. we've got the new volume pot on channel 2, but I'm not happy with that at all. It doesn't work very well. It's quite clearly the wrong type of pot. You turn it up to full to 10 and you've only just got some volume coming through, and even then you've got to use the slightly higher gain input. So as you can see just there, it's a much bigger shaft, or much bigger, pot in general, and it was a bigger shaft actually. I had to cut it down. So I think we're going to need to replace that, and I am toying with the idea of just replacing every single pot in here and every single knob on the front, because these are looking a little bit worse for wear, to be honest. As you can see, the numbers are rubbing off. We've got bits of crud and detritus and all sorts of stuff. This one I had to glue back together, and there's bits of glue residue still on it as well. And just generally, if we're talking about trying to sell something like this, you know, it just doesn't look brilliant, and you know, it's probably much easier to sell if it looks good, and also we can say at least some of this has had an overhaul, so we've put new switches on. So I think maybe we might well put some new pots on there as well. So that's where we are with it at the moment. Thank you for watching. Oh, and just as a reminder, the power output tubes, EL34s. Forgot that last time. Remembered it now. Isn't that always the case? So thanks very much for watching, and please feel free to comment, rate or subscribe.